My dear brothers and sisters, we come across a very similar story, a very popular story that all of us have heard, and we know, I'm sure, by heart. Jesus walking on the sea. When I read this story yesterday, some stories about my life that came to me. I don't know if you have ever had an experience of reaching the limits of your life and you feel you've tried everything and it's not working out. You've tried everything, you've exhausted all the possibilities, and you just feel God is still quiet. I remember when we were still living in Cameroon with my family, and I was to write my final exams in high school. They call it opposite, the GCE advanced level exams. And my parents had reached the limits. They could not afford to pay for that. We were completely stuck. And I remember my mother calling me in the kitchen and saying, with tears in her eyes, and she said, we are not able to afford for your exams. And I think about the cost of that. It was less than 700 pesos. Less than 700 pesos, and they could not afford that. It's not long time ago, 2003. They could not afford that. But I never got discouraged studying or saying, no, I'm not going to study because they can't pay for my exams. I always knew somehow that I'm going to write that exams together with the rest. But if you ask me, how did they manage to pay for that? I cannot tell you. All I know is that I wrote the exams and I passed very well. And also, another story that came to my mind when I read this gospel was when I was in high school, that is in Lower Sixth, a year before I wrote my final exams. I used to be a prefect, a laboratory prefect. So if anything was broken in the laboratory, I had an obligation to write the names of those who broke that, the test tube, burettes, and all those things. And I wrote the names of some of my very good best friends because they had broken something. I could not say I will not write it because they are my friends. I wrote that, and something happened strange. They came and searched my bag and got the list and included my name in it. I said I'd broken a test tube that costed 250 francs, which would be about less than 25 pesos. And I just innocently, I took the list and handed it over to the teacher. And then my name was read, and I had to pay 250. I could not defend that. They were only joking. They were not really serious about it. But that was the first time I really cried in front of everybody, not because they had written my name, but I was thinking, how can I afford this? How can I afford this? And at that time, that was my allowance for 1 week. I said, how am I going to spend my allowance for 1 week on a test tube? And I did not know that I did not broke anything. Anyway, my friends saw the way I was crying, and then they came and paid for me. And they said, no, we are just joking. We'll pay for you. And it's 25 pesos. It's just about 25 pesos. But what I want to say is that we had reached the limit. When we were in Cameroon, it was extremely difficult. And at that moment, I did not know, how are we ever going to survive? How are we ever going to even afford food or something? Even if we are to go back to Nigeria, how are we ever going to go back? How are we going to pay the transport? My father was locked 3 times because he could not pay his taxes. It was very traumatizing, especially when I was a seminary and I hear my father is locked up. Very difficult. But I tell you, in the midst of all that, when we feel we have reached the limit, God always shows up in a way that we would never imagine. The apostles were in the boat, and only at the 4th hour, 4th watch of the night, remember, they had been there the whole night. From 6 to 9 was the first watch. From 9 to 12, the second watch. The third watch from 12 to 3. And the gospel said that they had exhausted their strength. In fact, they had reached the limit where they were almost giving up. And that is when Jesus showed up at the fourth watch of the night, when all hope was almost gone. I always said the fourth watch of the night is always the darkest. They say the darkest is closest to the light. The darkest part of the night, which is the fourth watch, is that which is closest to the morning. And at times we reach that limit when we are about to give up. That's when God shows up. And that's why it's so important, my dear brothers and sisters, especially when we are going through difficulties. You know, there are moments when it's totally dark and we don't see any light at all. When we are rowing the boat and the wind is against us, let us remember that He has authority to walk on the storms of our lives. When the storms are hitting us badly and we do not know even how we are going to get out of it, let us always trust that He is going to show up at some point in His own way at His own time. When the apostles saw Him, they were so shocked, they were surprised. They did not know, who is this person? They even thought He was a ghost. But the fact that He was walking on the water is a symbol for each and every one of us, that He has authority to overcome that which is hitting us badly. He has authority to walk even in the most difficult moments of our lives and walk on those storms. If only we can trust in Him, then He who is able to walk on the storm is also able to calm the storms of our lives. Let us continue to ask Him and trust Him at all times, especially at those darkest moments when the storms are hitting us very badly. When we are almost giving up life, let us remember that He never leaves us nor forsakes us.